I have witnessed the fall of civilizations, but never have I feared the rise of one. Even now, as I record this testimony in the cold vaults of the Galactic Council, my frills tremble with a sensation my species does not have a word for. It is not dread. It is not awe. It is something far more dangerous, a fusion of both. And its shape is human. The council chamber loomed before me, an obsidian cathedral orbiting a dying red star. The light outside the grand spires flickered like the breaths of a suffocating god, casting warped shadows across 900 thrones. Each throne belonged to an empire that had outlived plagues, wars, and supernovae. Yet today, their voices quaked, not from weakness, but from obsession. The session began with a single phrase: on the matter of Earth. Holographic star maps ignited, painting the void in blues and golds. I, Archivist Vural of the Zenith Dominion, rose to my duties. My role was to document, not to feel, not to judge. But the moment Earth's blue sphere materialized before us, I sensed the chamber tighten, as though every species present shared the same unspoken terror. The accusations came first. Humanity evolves too quickly. They colonize without permission. They refused to submit to council doctrine. I displayed their history, pathetically short compared to our own. Barely emerged from their cradle, yet they had leapt from fractured tribes to starfarers in a blink. Their weapons adapted. Their politics shifted. Their spirits did not break, even when defeat should have tamed them. Humans were chaos wrapped in hope, and that combination unsettled every empire that worshipped control. They rebel against inevitability, one High Chancellor hissed. That makes them unpredictable. Unpredictable, in the Council's language, meant uncontrollable. The Chamber's debate spiraled until at last the Supreme Adjudicator rose, her crystal carapace gleaming with finality. Preventive balance, she declared. Extermination before contagion spreads. 900 hands lifted. 900 empires chose consensus. Only mine did not rise, but one voice in a sea of silence was nothing. The vote was recorded. The verdict? Genocide. I should have felt pride in our unity. Instead, I heard an echo from forbidden archives, an ancient warning whispered by the elders of the first cycle. Do not corner a species that does not understand surrender. We dismissed those elders as myth-drunk fools. Yet as I stared at Earth's hologram, vibrant and alive, I felt that warning coil around my thoughts like a serpent. The fleets departed within the hour, black armadas sliding into warp, blotting the stars behind them. I stood at the observation glass, watching contrails stretch across the void like execution signatures. The council celebrated, their voices rising in triumph. Across the galaxy, 7 trillion citizens cheered as though a plague had been cured. Not one of them understood what we had done. I looked again at Earth, suspended in projection. So small, so bright, so unaware that doom raced toward it. I told myself this was balance, order, protection for all species. But something in me whispered the truth. This was fear wearing a mask. I ended my recording, sealing the vote into history. My duty was complete. Yet my mind refused stillness. For the first time in my centuries of service, I questioned the council. I questioned myself. And as the extermination fleet vanished into the void, I felt the first tremor of a future none of us were prepared to meet. For humanity would not go quietly. Deep down, I sensed it. We had not ended danger today. We had awakened it. And when humanity learned what we had done, the galaxy would tremble. The extermination began at dawn. From the Council's throne spire, I watched in silence as the first warfeeds activated, cold, clinical, merciless. Earth rotated slowly beneath the encircled fleet, unaware that an entire arm of the galaxy held its breath. Then the order came, spoken without tremor or hesitation. Commence orbital cleansing. Lances of plasma rained from orbit, 1,000 suns igniting at once. The atmosphere caught fire. Shockwaves rippled across continents. Oceans boiled at their edges. Cities became blooming flowers of white light and rising ash. Through 1,000 council lenses, I watched Earth burn. I expected screams. Pleas for mercy, panic, humanity, after all, was known for its passion. Surely their final moments would be filled with rage and despair. But that is not what I witnessed. In feed after feed, amidst collapsing skylines and storms of fire, humans ran toward danger. Firefighters formed living chains to pull strangers from the rubble. Medics shielded children with their own bodies. Civilians opened underground shelters to anyone, regardless of creed or nation. Not one transmission showed surrender. Not one broadcast begged for life. Instead, they fought to save each other. The fleet commanders mocked this futile sentiment, calling it primitive instinct. Yet the longer I watched, the heavier my throat became. These were not animals scrambling for survival. These were a people choosing unity over terror. When Earth's last orbital defense fell, the commanders opened global channels expecting humanity's final cry. And at last a message did come. One signal echoed through emergency satellites across the dying sky. A human voice, steady and unbroken, spoke 4 words. We are still here. No hatred. No surrender. Just defiance carved into hope. The chamber fell silent. Even the Admiralty hesitated, as though the words themselves pushed back against our victory. Then the war feeds flickered again, showing not armies, not weapons, but civilians forming lines to rescue one another as flames consumed their cities. Mothers carrying strangers' children, soldiers clearing paths for doctors instead of retreating, people refusing to abandon anyone. There was no panic, only purpose. I felt something twist inside me, an ache I could not name. The Council had always preached that emotions made humans weak. Yet here, in the heart of their extinction, emotion made them unbreakable. Hours later, the bombardment ceased. Earth's surface smoldered, cracked, and blackened. The fleet commander's voice rang out through the council chambers. Objective achieved. The human threat is neutralized. Applause followed. A standing ovation. History, they believed, had been corrected, but I could not move. I replayed the final signal over and over, hearing resolve instead of ruin. Hearing promise instead of death. We are still here. It did not sound like an ending. It sounded like the first line of a new beginning, one born in fire, not erased by it. And for the first time, I understood a terrifying truth the Council refused to see. We did not fear humanity's weapons or their armies or their ambition. We feared their spirit. Because no matter how many times the universe tried to break them, they rose. And as the feeds went dark, I felt it again, that same silent omen crawling beneath my skin. Humanity had not been defeated. Humanity had awakened. Ashes should have been the end. That is what every empire believed, what I believed. History had proven time and again that when a homeworld dies, its species dies with it. We thought humanity would fade into a tragic footnote, spoken of only in academic laments and military lectures. But we were wrong. Earth fell silent. Yet humanity did not. The first sign came as a whisper, an encrypted signal rippling through outlaw channels and abandoned beacons. Then another. Then dozens. Then hundreds. Ghost code from locations that should have been barren. The transmissions carried no plea, no grief, no rage. Only a vow, we are not finished. I felt my heart stutter as I traced the origins. Arc ships hidden in Oort cloud shadows. Bunkers carved into asteroids and black ice. Colonies long believed failed, now broadcasting war coordination packets. Humanity had not scattered in panic. They had prepared. They had contingencies buried under centuries of defeat and disaster. The Council thought it had destroyed Earth. It had only destroyed their restraint. Days later, a second message arrived, this time untranslated by any AI, spoken clearly in human tongue. Broadcast on every open frequency across 100 systems. You wanted monsters. We can become what you fear. In the council chamber, the words echoed like a funeral bell. Humans had always been emotional, yes, but this voice was not emotional. It was cold, united, weaponized. The tone of a species that no longer sought permission to exist. Human diplomacy died that day. No more ambassadors. No more councils. No more mercy. Out of humanity's surviving factions, governments, militaries, and corporations, a single doctrine emerged: simple, brutal, and unyielding: survival by absolute dominance. Then the disappearances began. A slaver fleet vanished near the Orion Gate. No distress signals, no wreckage. A border garrison went silent. A research moon was found emptied, its technology gone, its defenders disassembled with surgical precision. No scorch marks, no kinetic debris, no energy signatures. At first, the Council blamed pirates. Then the feeds arrived, grainy. Fragmented footage, warships of unmistakable human design, but changed. Sleeker, darker, wrong. Vessels that emitted no thermal output. No warp wake, no detectable drive signatures. They appeared from empty space like ghosts, and their weapons. Even now I struggle to understand what I saw. Guns that folded light into blades of gravity. Projectiles that bent space instead of traveling through it. And soldiers, humans, encased in armor whose telemetry continued transmitting even after the wearer's vital signs had stopped. The Admiralty panicked. "This is impossible," they insisted. "Not in their lifetime, not in their science." But the humans did not care what we believed possible. They had stopped playing by galactic rules. They no longer sought balance or negotiation. They hunted with silence, precision, and purpose, never striking civilians, never wasting a shot, attacking only those who voted for Earth's death. Justice, not conquest, but their justice was a blade with no handle. I watched intercepted footage of a human strike team breaching a dreadnought. They moved like inevitability, silent, fearless, coordinated with terrifying efficiency. When cornered, they did not retreat. When wounded, they fought harder. When dying, they triggered neural overrides to continue fighting after death. I felt my pulse ice over. This was not the humanity the Council mocked as emotional and primitive. This was humanity unchained. In the quiet of the archive chamber, I finally understood why the Elder's warning had survived the ages. Do not corner a species that does not understand surrender. We had mistaken compassion for weakness. We had mistaken patience for submission. And in our arrogance, we taught humanity the one lesson they should never have learned, that civilization had failed them. Now, they would respond without it. As the Council scrambled to form defenses, a third and final broadcast arrived. Short, final, absolute. You ended our world. We will end your certainty. The message cut to black. I stared at the empty screen, realizing with a weight I could barely breathe under. The Council had not won anything. We had only created the very force we feared most. Humanity wasn't rebuilding. Humanity was becoming something new, and now they were coming. I once believed humanity's greatest strength was its passion. I was wrong. Passion was merely the spark. What I witnessed next was the inferno, cold, controlled, and impossibly focused. The broadcasts began without warning. No emblem of nation or faction. Only a new sigil burned into the transmission feed, a broken chain over a burning star. Then a voice followed, steady as steel and twice as sharp. We are the Iron Resolve. Humanity stands as one. We do not forgive genocide. In that moment, a scattered survivor species died, and something far more dangerous took its place. The intercepts revealed how it formed. The remnants of Earth's governments, exiled admirals, off-world colonies, corporate fleets, and black site armies, entities that once competed, sabotaged, and distrusted each other, had united under a single doctrine. No Senate, no elections, no debate, only resolve. Their coordination bordered on unnatural. Command packets were encrypted beyond Council decryption. Fleets moved without detectable warp trails. Orders were given not with emotion, but with clarity and terrifying precision. Every message intercepted carried the same cadence. No shouts, no fury, only purpose. Humans had found something stronger than rage. They had found unity. Then the first counterstrike came. Swift, bloodless, catastrophic. Not against a fortress, not against a dreadnought, not against a world. Humanity targeted the lattice, the vast network of supply routes, refueling stations, hyper-relays, and logistical hubs that fed the Council's military machine. Dozens of nodes across multiple sectors went dark in a synchronized instant. Tanker fleets vanished. Warp corridors collapsed. Data relays burned into static. It was not war. It was strangulation. Within days, fleets were immobilized. Armies starved on distant fronts. Entire economies buckled as the flow of resources froze. Admirals screamed across comm channels for fuel, for rations, for reinforcements that would never arrive. The Council's most feared war machine, the same machine that burned Earth, found itself powerless, suffocating on its own dependency, and humanity had not fired on a single city, not bombarded a single civilian world. They had struck only those who enabled genocide. Predator empires, once arrogant in their strength, suddenly found themselves cornered, starving, blind, and afraid. I saw panic erupt in council chambers as member species turned on one another, blaming allies for failing to predict the impossible. The impossible. That humanity could do what no empire had ever achieved. Unite their fractured kind, outthink ancient militaries, and weaponize logistics instead of lives. I replayed one intercepted message until I could recite it from memory. A human commander speaking to their fleet. No rage, no cruelty, precision only. We are not here to burn worlds. We are here to end those who tried to erase us. There was no triumph in the voice, no bloodlust, just inevitability. That terrified me more than any scream, because a species that kills in anger may one day tire. But a species that kills with calm conviction does not stop. It finishes, around me. Council strategists spoke of countermeasures, of retaliation, of restoring control to the galaxy. But control was already gone. Humanity had rewritten the rules of war, and as I stared at the broken chain emblem glowing on my screen, a realization crystallized with chilling clarity. The Council had once feared what humans could become. Now we were living in the shadow of what they had become. The Iron Resolve was not a rebellion. It was a verdict. Terror becomes the new galactic language. Humanity does not broadcast threats or ultimatums. Its silence is far more effective. The empires that once cheered for Earth's cleansing now begin to fracture from the inside. Every species remembers the vote, remembers their applause, remembers the burning of a blue world they believed would never rise again. Now, with humanity's shadow looming unseen, ally begins to suspect ally, friend turns on friend. And the council chambers that once dictated the fate of civilizations crumble into chaos. Rumors flood the hyperlanes. The humans are among us. They've infiltrated our fleets. Their ships are invisible. No one knows what is true, and that uncertainty becomes the weapon. Vural documents the unraveling, riots in merchant worlds as trade collapses, border skirmishes between former allies, military coups against failing governments, and assassinations disguised as human sabotage. Entire species that once prided themselves on logic and emotional superiority now devolve into fear-driven paranoia. Every unexplained explosion, every data breach, every missing ship is automatically blamed on humanity, even when humans had nothing to do with it. The Council attempts emergency unity sessions, but trust is dead. Some species demand surrender to humanity. Others argue for escalation, terrified that showing weakness will doom them. No vote passes. No decision holds. The Council rots from within, paralyzed, and through it all, humanity says nothing. No message. No demands. No negotiations. Their silence becomes the loudest scream the galaxy has ever heard. The galaxy waits for humanity's first act of vengeance, expecting chaos and bloodlust. But what comes is far worse: precision. Humanity selects its first target with cold logic. The Valor Imperium, the empire that authored the genocide proposal and rallied others to exterminate Earth. From Vural's perspective, terror becomes a living thing as he watches human fleets emerge from impossible vectors. Slipping through quantum shadows with technology the Council swore could never exist. The attack is not a barrage. It is a dismantling. Shipyards vanish in blinding flashes of silent light. Planetary shield relays overload and melt like wax. Command nexuses collapse, their admirals dead before alarms even sound. Every strike is surgical. No wasted fire, no civilian targets, only infrastructure, leadership, and the war machine that once cheered for Earth's death. Humanity doesn't conquer. They erase capability. When the Valor Emperor finally breaks and pleads for surrender, a single human transmission is broadcast to every species. Every channel, every frequency, surrender is for the living. You chose extinction, but then comes the twist. Humanity does not burn Valor cities. They do not massacre the innocent. Instead, they do something far more devastating. They broadcast classified archives and hidden recordings, exposing centuries of Valor atrocities the Council ignored. Billions across the galaxy watch in horror as truth replaces propaganda. Uprisings ignite overnight. For the first time, whispers spread through enslaved systems and oppressed colonies. Maybe humanity is not the monster. Maybe humanity is the reckoning we prayed for. And from the council chambers to the outer rim, a dreadful realization spreads. Humanity's war is not destruction. It is judgment. The galaxy that once roared for human extinction now trembles beneath the silence of human fleets. Their armadas hang over worlds like judgment made of steel and starlight, motionless, wordless, unstoppable. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Council bows. Envoys kneel in the Hall of Concord, treaties clutched in trembling hands, promising peace, reparations, forgiveness, anything. Vural himself becomes a messenger of desperation, delivering pleas he never imagined would come from the most powerful empires in existence. But humanity listens without mercy. Their answer is a single transmission, broadcast in a voice colder than the void itself. You begged for our extinction. Now the galaxy learns consequence. No threats, no screams, no hatred, just consequence. Worlds that once cheered as Earth burned now stare up into star-black skies, watching human vessels eclipse their suns. And humanity does not arrive as conquerors seeking banners and thrones. They arrive as judges, as memory incarnate. They disable weapons, dismantle militaries, and shatter power structures, not for territory but for accountability. The message becomes clear across every system. Humanity is not fighting to win. Humanity is fighting to be remembered. The Council realizes too late that they never understood their prey. They mistook compassion for weakness, diplomacy for fear, and mercy for obedience. Now they learn the truth. Humans do not erase their tragedies. They immortalize them. Their wars become monuments. Their scars become scripture. And their vengeance becomes history. Vural watches hope wither as entire civilizations kneel, not to a ruler, but to a truth they can never escape. Humanity will make the stars remember what was done to Earth, and the galaxy now whispers in dread, "We thought we killed them. Instead, we awakened them." The Council homeworld, once the throne of galactic order, now waits beneath a shadow it cannot command, a human war fleet that darkens half the horizon. Sirens echo through marble chambers, drowning in the panic of those who once believed themselves eternal. Vural, quill in trembling hand, records the final session of the Galactic Council as tremors shake the floor, each distant impact a reminder of judgment descending from orbit. In their last act, the Council chooses the only language they ever truly believed in: war. With a unanimous, fear-poisoned vote, they conscript every ship, every soldier, every weapon that still remains. Armies are thrown into space like sparks into a storm. It changes nothing. The humans do not bombard cities. They do not scorch continents. Their assault is precise, beheading the institution, not the world. Command relays go silent. Defense rings fall. Flagships vanish in flashes of surgical devastation. The proud Council armada is neutralized in hours, not weeks. And when the final shield above the capital flickers out, the truth becomes undeniable. Humanity is not here to destroy the galaxy. Humanity is here to destroy the order that tried to destroy them. Soldiers lay down their weapons. Banners fall from the spires. Leaders are escorted from the chamber in chains. And as the Council seal, the symbol of 10,000 years of control, shatters across the floor, Vural uncovers something buried in forbidden archives, an ancient prophecy, older than the Council, older than its empires, etched by seers who vanished long before the first star routes opened. When the fires of Earth reach the stars, the age of tyrants ends. Only now does Vural understand. The Council did not ignite a war. They fulfilled a prophecy. And outside the broken chamber windows, the human fleet waits, not as conquerors, but as the architects of whatever comes next. The Council's fall does not bring peace. It brings detonation. Systems that once lived under the boot of empire erupt in revolution. Slave worlds rise. Broken species who were bred only to serve now seize the weapons of their former masters. Centuries of silence transform overnight into screams of rage, of triumph, of grief. Vural watches from the shattered archives, horrified and mesmerized as an entire galaxy tears itself apart. But humanity does not claim the throne left behind. No banners, no coronation, no declaration of dominion. Instead, they do something the galaxy has no precedent for. They arm the oppressed and walk away. Human warships descend not to conquer, but to distribute food, medical arrays, encrypted comnet keys, and weapons once reserved for elites. They shatter slave circuits, dismantle obedience towers, and break the chains of species the Council thought beneath notice. To billions, humanity becomes not a monster, but a myth, a symbol of liberation through fire. Statues of humans rise where Council effigies once towered. Children chant human battle slogans as if they were prayers. And still, freedom is not gentle, old hatreds resurface. Ancient grudges ignite like oil. Planets burn, not under human bombardment, but under their own long-buried fury. The galaxy, unshackled, discovers that freedom is chaos and justice is hungry. Vural realizes a truth more frightening than any war fleet. The Council did not maintain peace. They only suppressed consequence. Without their iron grip, every species must now face the cost of its own history. At the heart of the storm, humanity stands silent, neither conqueror nor savior, standing at a crossroads written in blood and possibility. They could claim rulership. No force remains to oppose them. A single order would crown them masters of all they survey. But instead, humanity hesitates. Because they are no longer fighting for survival, vengeance, or memory. They are fighting for meaning. What comes next will decide whether humans become the new tyrants of the stars, or something far greater than empire, conquest, or fear. For the first time, the galaxy is free. For the first time, the galaxy is afraid of itself, and Vural whispers into his log, "The chains are broken, but what will we build from the pieces?" The galaxy stands in a silence no one knows how to fill. Empires have fallen, chains have broken. Whole civilizations stare into a future unruled for the first time in 10,000 years. Many fear humanity will now seize the throne, forge a new empire, raise a new council, simply replacing one tyranny with another. But humanity does not take the throne. Humanity burns it. Instead of a crown, they offer a covenant. From the restored orbit of old Earth, beneath a rebuilt blue sky, humanity drafts a new doctrine and transmits it across every star network, every liberated world, every broken capital. No species holds the right to erase another. No fate may be chosen on behalf of the unwilling. Existence is sacred. Survival is sovereign. The galaxy names it the Accords of Earth. This time, law is not enforced through fear, but through accountability. Not conquest, but consequence. Humanity does not ask for obedience, only responsibility. War fleets once forged for vengeance now escort refugee arcs, rebuild shattered habitats, and distribute knowledge once hoarded by the Council. They raise schools where prisons once stood. They rebuild libraries where palaces once towered. They protect worlds they do not own, and to the astonishment of billions, they demand nothing in return. Vural, who once chronicled humanity's destruction, now chronicles their rebirth. In his new role as Archivist of the Accords, he watches the galaxy change, slowly, painfully, beautifully. Former enemies sit at the same tables. Former slaves draft their own laws. Former conquerors learn humility or are isolated until they do. Humanity leads, but does not rule. Guides, but does not command. Inspires, but does not dominate. For the first time in recorded history, there is a law that protects the weak instead of preserving the powerful. And through Vural's eyes, the galaxy finally understands. Humanity could have become tyrants. They chose to become shepherds. The age of fear is ending. The age of accountability is beginning. And under new constellations, a single idea spreads from star to star. The future belongs to all of us, or to none. The galaxy sleeps uneasily beneath newborn peace. Ruined throne worlds heal. Liberated civilizations find their voices, and in the quiet that follows the Age of Fire, a single narrator remains, a lone archivist who has witnessed the impossible. Vural, once historian of an empire, now becomes historian of a truth the galaxy will study for millennia. His final chronicle is not about the fall of the Council, nor the burning of Earth, nor even the liberation that followed. It is about the species that refused to die. A species that rose from ash and memory and agony and said to the cosmos, "No, we are not finished." Vural writes of humans as he now understands them. Not gods, not monsters, but something far rarer. A species that will drag itself through hell before it allows itself to vanish. A species that bends, breaks, bleeds, mourns, forgives, learns, but never, ever surrenders. He recalls how they faced genocide and answered not with silence but with meaning. How they wielded rage without losing themselves to it. How they won, not by ruling the galaxy, but by forcing it to become better than it was. The final human. Message echoes across the stars, etched into every relay, beacon, archive, and mind. We are still here, not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as memory, boundary, and promise. A warning to every would-be tyrant. If you raise your hand to erase a world, remember Earth. And a promise to every trembling, endangered species. If you stand, fight, and endure, you will not stand alone. In his last entry, Vural closes the chronicle with a single truth the galaxy can never again ignore. Humanity is not immortal because they cannot die. Humanity is immortal because they refuse to stay dead. The stars once feared the words, "Humanity endures." Now they whisper them in reverence, because humanity did not just survive the end of their world. They became the reason no world will ever face such an end again. In years past, and the echoes of the final uprising slowly faded into memory. The scars across the galaxy never fully vanished. They lingered in shattered moons, hollow battle stations, and the silent bones of empires that once believed themselves eternal. But the wounds no longer bled. They became lessons and warnings. The liberated worlds did not rebuild into old shapes. They refused chains of any kind. Where imperial banners once smothered starlight, agora domes now gleamed over young cities, filled not with orders, but with voices, markets, music, laughter. On 1,000 worlds, languages once outlawed were now taught in open sun. Humanity never crowned itself ruler. It did something far more terrifying, far more inspiring. It walked away from the throne everyone expected it to seize. The Accord fleets remained, but they no longer patrolled as conquerors. They drifted quietly at the edges of systems, watching, not ruling, intervening only when cruelty tried to rise from old ashes. Humanity had become something rare in the history of civilizations, a superpower with no desire to dominate. Vural traveled between these newborn worlds as a historian, no longer a witness to enslavement, but to rebirth. He saw former enemies, Salashi, Arkol, Tyran youth, learning beside human children under vast sky domes on worlds once burned to black glass. He watched classrooms where claws, tendrils, and human hands sketched on the same holoscreens, where young voices debated futures instead of repeating propaganda, where the question was no longer who deserves the stars, but what can we build together? At last, Vural accepted an invitation he had refused for years. He visited Earth. He walked through green fields where soot once choked the wind. He saw thriving oceans that had healed, wild forests reborn, and monuments not of war heroes but of peacekeepers, translators, engineers, and children who never stopped dreaming. Human families welcomed him, not as a chronicler of their suffering, and not as an alien outsider, but simply as a friend. Under a warm twilight sky, Vural finally understood the truth he had spent a lifetime chasing. Humanity's greatest victory was not survival. It was mercy. It was restraint. It was choosing to build when it had every right to rule. That night, on a hill above a quiet coastal town, children, human and alien together, released floating lanterns into the dark. Their lights drifted upward, small and fragile, but steady, like new stars. Vural watched them rise and wrote his final words. Once, we feared humanity. Now we walk beside them. And because we chose to walk together, the stars are finally free.